Hello and welcome to the Sunday Guardian podcast by Joyeeta Basu. Viewers, in the context of whatever has been taking place over the last, 10 days, Operation Sindoor, I'm talking about, post the Pahalgaon terror attack of 22nd April, a lot has happened. We have seen how the Indian military has gone and pummeled the Pakistani military. It's a different matter that the Pakistanis are saying that they have pummeled us. But a lot has happened in terms of operational. So, you should discuss all this and how the Indian military has kind of lived up to the country's expectations. I have a very special guest with me, Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, who is at present Distinguished Fellow, Vivekananda International Foundation.
Thank you, Joyeeta.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
So tell me, Lieutenant General Sharma, what exactly, first of all, was the objective of Operation Sindoor?
So now, of course, we can talk of in retrospective. If you take a step back, when we had the first one in 2001, the one, if you recollect, Parliament attack. So we undertook what was called a coercive diplomacy, where we mobilized the entire Indian armed forces, and we were there for 10 months deployed on the border. And that coercive diplomacy exactly did not succeed in many ways, because Pakistan was back into its old things of terrorism. Then subsequently 26/11 happened, Bombay, and we did nothing. In fact, we all believed in diplomacy to put across to the world that this was a organized terror operation of Pakistan, especially because we caught Kasab and Headley and all these issues came up. The subsequent two that happened, which was the Uri operation where we did surgical strikes, and the Balakot operation post Pulwama, were largely retributive in nature. We were taking a revenge, a retribution. And their success in a larger measure against deterring Pakistan to do any kind of take a step back from terrorism did not exactly succeed. Pakistan was shortly back into the old ways. If you say last year, 2024, we had 127 odd casualties. So it continued like that. This year, firstly, the Pahalgam terror operation was singularly different. It was segregating a community, Hindus, and killing them point blank. It was atrocious, dastardly act. So if you say now, after 1 week has passed, as to what would have been our aim laid down, naturally government has not set the aims needed the armed forces. So one, of course, the first aim would be to destroy the apex level terrorist infrastructure. And the first night strikes, 9 of them, were aimed as that apex level terrorist infrastructure. We have known about Muridki and Bahawalpur for a very long time. We've been talking of Raiwind also. Raiwind is a place south of Lahore, which is the headquarters of Tablighi Jamaat, which is also organization that radicalizes people. So Muridki and Bahawalpur were not new names here, but we have never touched Punjab at all. So first aim was to handle or to target the terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan's Punjab. First time we went to Punjab. Here and before, we were all dealing with only the areas outside, opposite the line of control. And then we targeted the, camps, terror camps and terror organizations in the POK itself, from Muzaffarabad, which we have known that it's the headquarters there, right up to Sialkot. Sialkot is also in Punjab. So, when you count this together, first aim was to target the apex level terrorist infrastructure, which we did fantastic, very well. It was focused, it was well planned, it was targeted between Air Force and the Army, and they did a very fine job. The second is that we were attempting to show a kind of demonstration of modern military superiority. While everybody been counting number of soldiers you have, number of tanks you have, number of aircraft you have, but here we demonstrated a military superiority, both defensive and offensive in nature. In matters of offensive, all that what Pakistan targeted against us between drones and missiles on all 3 nights or 4 nights, uh, from north right up to Avantipura to Bhuj. First night, 15 airfields, and the second night when they targeted the areas right from Leh to Sar Creek, 24, 26 odd sites. So with all kinds of drones and missiles, not one reached its target, not one reached the defended target. So we were able to exhibit that we have a grid of air defense created, which is very solid and strong. And if you see, it is indigenous grid, and it's also grid of equipment that we have purchased from outside, air defense. So it's a success story. Offensively, if you want to count, so our targeting was exceedingly good, very precise. So when we targeted, of course, first day, Bhavalpur and Murid. The second day and third day when we targeted focused from Rawalpindi, which is GHQ headquarters in Islamabad. We are far away, and right up to Lahore, where the battery was down. It was focused targeting. There was no collateral being damaged. There were no civilian houses being hit. Everything was focused into the exact. So what does it lead to? It lead to us to understand that it was a very highly intelligent operation. We knew exactly the place to hit and not hit anywhere else. So, for example, if you see one photograph, you must have seen that we hit the intersection of two runways in Sargodha. So it was hit at the plus. They were crossing. So denying 2 runways across to the university. So and it means we've done surveys. We had satellite links to that area. We have done good amount of mapping
And human intelligence as well.
and good intelligence. Maybe human intelligence. Maybe people down there. I mean, but it was very good intelligence, and we targeted the areas, all of them. The first day sites, 6, 7 of them, and the next day sites, which started from Skardu. We have never touched Skardu ever. Skardu, last time the war was fought in 1948.
It is to Ladakh, that side.
Kargil, opposite Kargil, other side of Kargil.
Huh.
So we hit Skardu and we hit right up to Rahim Yar Khan. Rahim Yar Khan comes opposite Rajasthan, southern Rajasthan. You can say generally lined with Barmer, Jaisalmer, Barmer, 100 kilometers. So, and each, including Rawalpindi and Islamabad, and all the major airfields, drone hubs, radar sites, which are important. And this was targeted, and not one of the missiles that we were using for targeting went awry. They didn't, the Pakistani much touted air defense did not succeed at all. So we were able to do that. So, we indicated clear modern military superiority. They sent 400 drones a night, but we were able to down all of them, which requires great amount of modern day expertise. Third issue is that I think we wanted to establish deterrence, which the previous operations did not do. Did we establish deterrence is a separate issue. But we did attempt to establish deterrence. We said we were not bothered whether there is attributability to Pahalgam with Pakistan. Kasab was attributable that time. Still, Pakistan didn't agree. We allowed them to come to Pathankot for joint investigation. Nothing came out of it. So we know that when they say joint investigation, there's no meaning of joint investigation. So we said, okay, we declare you are the culprit in Pahalgam, and so we will establish deterrence. And my last point is here that after a long time, we declared a national security doctrine. We never declared it. We have, maybe we have one, but this time we declared it. The Prime Minister was clear in his exercise of and in statement of nuclear doctrine. He said, okay, terror and water and blood can't flow together. Trade and terror can't go together, and of course, terror and talks can't go together. Clear-cut enunciation of the doctrine. And he said on nuclear weapons, don't threaten me.
Yeah, no nuclear blackmail is not going to deter us.
Exactly. If you see this 10 days or 12 days prior to the 7th, 6 ministers of Pakistan cabinet said we will use nuclear devices. So they were threatening us, don't do anything. So the Prime Minister clearly said, okay, no nuclear blackmail. So I think, the deliberate plan, and we would have planned for it to declare a national security doctrine against terror emanating from Pakistan. So I think these four were the major
Yeah, he talked
aims.
about, if terror against us will now be construed as an act of war.
So terror is equal to an act of war is also part of the doctrine. We can debate this issue, discuss this issue.
Yeah, so the thing is that when you're talking about this nuclear thing, so obviously the first question that comes to mind is exactly what happened at Kirana Hills. And do you seriously believe that Pakistan would have escalated it to the level of where they use nuclear weapons against us? And what would our response have been?
So, in the realm of use of nuclear weapons is a separate issue altogether. The first issue is that on first of every year we exchange with each other our nuclear sites and nuclear establishments. This is a CBM that's been going on for last 25-30 years. Like IWT is a long drawn CBM, including in Kargil time, including in Parakram. On first of every year we exchange neutral site.
Okay, with Pakistan.
With Pakistan, it's
Okay.
been ongoing.
Okay.
Every worst of time this has been CBM has stood. Naturally, Pakistan will not inform us that Kirana Hills had a nuclear sites, because then it becomes that you have informed and we should not target it. Like we would be.
Okay, so the whatever information they have given us, Kirana Hills is not listed there.
Hopefully. I mean,
Okay.
one doesn't know. This is all classified information. But suffice it to say, if I put my nuclear weapons or warheads in a place, I certainly will not inform the other country. So, Kirana Hills is as not a target for us. You can't hit hills, na? But Sargodha was a target. And Sargodha is one of the biggest cantonments, and it's got the biggest bases, and it's been all along a very important base. How come a targeting of Sargodha went across way outside the airbase and hit a hillside, where now it turns out to light that there are 6 tunnels, and one tunnel was probably hit, or some damage has been taken place in one of these tunnels. Did they spoof this missile? Now, Air Marshal Aurangzeb and his briefing in Pakistan, he is saying that we were trying to spoof. Spoof means, see, they have Chinese equipment. They have Chinese constellation of satellites supporting them. So they are being guided by Chinese satellites. And they have Chinese communication infrastructure. It is all interoperable between Pakistan and China. And they were trying to damage the seeking. You have seeker heads on the missiles. So when you try to spoof it, you confuse it. When you confuse it, he says that we made sure that the missile doesn't land at the place it's supposed to land, and it will go across and land in what he said, no man's land. But it's in Pakistan only. Why do you call no man's land? It is whether they spoofed it and it went across to Kirana Hills, or it was erroneously hit there and it turned out to be a nuclear site. That alone, judgmental issue between when they start surveying it, finding out of the issues out here. But it now does come to light that the Kirana Hills had some kind of nuclear warheads, and either the Americans were aware of it or they reacted that manner, because President Trump immediately tweeted that millions would have died if we had not got involved. So millions would have died, and when you say tweeting millions would have died, it reflected on a nuclear war happening, which actually was not happening. It was all well designated targeting. Yeah. So one doesn't know what's happened but there was kind of hackles raised, and the rumor wheels started out in a big way. There have been earthquakes and there have been radiation leaks. Now IAEA says there's no radiation leak, and so what happened in Kirana Hills, I think future will tell us. But it would have been a major issue as it stands, because IAEA would not have got involved in checking Kirana Hills if there was no reference given to them to see whether there is a radiation leakage, which actually implies that there was something there.
Something there.
Now we know.
Yes. So when you're talking about these Chinese, that there's kind of completely Pakistan is totally working with China and China is working with Pakistan. What exactly is the nature of this Chinese collusion? I mean, Turkey is, I guess, in a much not that big a scale. But when you're talking about Pakistan and China, what exactly is going on over there?
So you see, everybody talks about platforms. So platform is one good thing, like the aircraft. JF-10s, JF-17s. These 2 aircraft that the Pakistanis were using are Chinese aircraft. So it's a good aircraft, very good 4.5 generation aircraft JF-10, which the Pakistanis used, JF-10C, I think. It's a very good aircraft which they were using, and JF-17s, which also they had. So platform, they have Al Khalid tanks. Tanks have been made in China or manufactured in under license in Pakistan. So tanks, mechanized infantry. See, from 2016 onwards, the Pakistanis de-linked on purchase of their stores from military wherewithal from United States. Till all these years, United States was the supplier to Pakistan. F-16s, as you know. But 2016 onwards, they have now transformed themselves to be Chinese equipment. So I could now say 80% of their inventories got Chinese stuff. But more importantly, is the assistance beyond platforms, aircraft, tanks, leave the platforms alone. It is beyond. So the Chinese have given them Beidou satellites, Beidou satellite systems. So they don't have GPS. We follow GPS, American system, or the GLONASS, which is the Russian. But they have a Beidou system, which is secure, and it's only Chinese. And Pakistan's are totally interoperable. So they have the advantage of having Beidou communication system, which means, they have handsets which are secure, something like this, Huawei sets, which are phone. Terrorists are using it. And so one is that they hold.
Terrorists are also using it. The Pakistan military also using
So
it.
Pakistan military uses it. Pakistan terrorists, we find terrorists using now same Beidou sets, Huawei sets.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then, so the communication infrastructure is all secure and there. Then, Chinese have got a very large number of low Earth orbit satellites. So they bring to bear battlefield transparency. You know exactly what is happening. And they also help you in guiding your missiles and target systems. So the Chinese, this low Earth orbit satellites, this system was provided to the Pakistanis.
Yeah.
So, and for quite some time, they have been doing electronic warfare exercises. So electronic warfare in a larger measure came from China. And Pakistanis integrated with their existing system, from radars to aircraft to everything combined together, is also their AVACs. So they have a large number, 9 of them, I think. SAB is a Swedish company. So they have 9 of these AVACs or AEWs, which is early warning platforms, which all got integrated together. So, a kind of Chinese have attempted to provide them battlefield transparency of a very modern kind. That, I think, would be the biggest collusivity I can talk about between China and Pakistan.
So, in spite of that, how did everything become opaque for Pakistan?
So, how we targeted, the kind of systems we use. See,
and how did those Chinese equipment fail? Because if they had so much, they knew what we were doing. If they had that kind of satellite images and everything that China was providing them, so how come they failed so badly?
So look, again, full amount of technical and technological details are not in open realm, and they come out in time. And one should not never underestimate the adversary. I'm sure the A-10s failed or didn't, JF-10s failed or didn't fail. Is it time to tell? And the AVACs performed, I think, quite all right. Certain things in our case were quality. We recently fielded an Akash Theed system, which is an air defense system, indigenous, made in India. And that was a success story. So that brought a whole lot of things down. Then, of course, we also used S-400 that we have taken from Russians. And we had Barak and Spider and others which are taken from Israelis. So the grid established for defensive had very good equipment. And they were able to challenge it. And this is all automated equipment. S-400 has got different layers of different type of weapon system which can pick up the adversary at a long distance or shorter distance and automatically engage them. So S-400, so Barak, which downed a missile near Sirsa, were all, and Akash Theed, very good system. Second major issue, a major part of our targeting was done by state-of-the-art missiles that used by the Rafale jets, which is Scalp or Hammer. These are very good missiles. And we obviously learned or adapted to remain outside the range of Pakistani aircraft now, and still targeted. And then BrahMos turned out to be a game changer. So BrahMos is a supersonic Mach 5 long range missile, and it is cruise. It goes at a lower altitude. It's got terrain mapping. They would have inertial navigation system with the own satellites, and also there was pinpointing targeting. So BrahMos became a game changer on last 2 days, where it could target, pinpoint to those places, and the Pakistanis had no answer to it, because cruise missiles are not very easy to target and remove, and that too a cruise missile of this kind, which is supersonic, it goes at that speed.
Doesn't Pakistan have similar missiles, supersonic
So,
cruise missiles?
no, but they have supersonic. They have ballistic missiles. It goes to sky, comes down.
Okay.
None of the ballistic missiles Pakistani used, and none of the ballistic missiles we used. So they have Gauri, Ghazni, Abdali, those names that we've been hearing. We have Agni, Pralay, Prithvi. So, what happens with ballistic missiles is that firstly it escalates the war. And then there is always a doubt that this missile has got conventional warhead and or nuclear warhead. There's always a doubt. And third is that there obviously will be counter value targets. Means it would hit cities and townships, which is collateral damage. So I think wisdom prevailed, and both sides do not use ballistic missiles.
No, but it seems the missile that was downed at Sirsa in Haryana, apparently, I mean, the buzz at that time was, it was headed towards Delhi, and it was a ballistic missile.
I have my doubts. Again, see, I'll wait for the answer to come out when it comes out. But I doubt it was a ballistic missile. It could be one of the cruise missiles where the Chinese would have given, and it was downed accordingly. So I'm not very sure as to quality of that missile. It has not been named as yet in public. I know they use air-to-air missiles PL-15C, which was mounted on JF-10 aircraft, which is a very good missile. Pieces of which were found in India, which is one of the finest missiles that the Chinese have given to the Pakistanis, the PL-15C. So, which is that Sirsa missile? I think time will tell. I'm sure we must be judging it.
So when you're talking about this, this Chinese collusivity, of course, but you saw also the failure of Chinese equipment. So the thing is that it's so, initially they tried to spin the whole story around how they have downed so many of our aircraft and all. But ultimately, it seems the real story that is emerging is the failure of Chinese technology.
So HQ-9, which is a weapon system that we destroyed in Lahore, is something like S-300, which the Russians produced. Before S-400, S-300.
And which Israel destroyed in Iran.
Yeah, which was destroyed in Lahore itself. So HQ-9 and Iran also, you're right. But it was destroyed in there. And then they had something called HQ-16 also. So large number of batteries. I think we managed to destroy the one in Lahore. But they may be successful in a particular arena. They were not particularly successful against BrahMos missiles. So, it comes to light their weaknesses now. So, we've shown a kind of modernity and range. So, a range of missiles. Rawalpindi is so far away. So, we've been able to target, and, same Rahim Yar Khan, etc. So, we've been able to target those distant areas because our BrahMos missile has turned out to be superlative. And we didn't use 500 kilometers per day and all that, for obvious reasons, but we have the capacity to use them when they do.
So when we are talking about the indigenous production of missiles and all, when you are looking back at India's history as a layperson, as a journalist, what we have seen, there was a time there were so many complaints against particularly the DRDO about how they were taking years to develop one aircraft. And how is it that such a change has come about in India's indigenous defense manufacturing? From laggards, we now seem to be among the best. How did it happen?
So there are success stories and there are not success stories. So I will not generalize saying that everything is hunky dory. It's
No,
not
obviously
so.
not. Huh?
We've been hearing the air chief speaking about HAL, and the aircraft. If it's been 20-25 years, we've been hearing about Tejas. It is yet to see things. So that story. But if something has succeeded, we must acknowledge it. The Akash Steed succeeded and BrahMos succeeded. So we must acknowledge that between BrahMos, which was a joint venture with Russians, and Akash Steel, which is indigenous, is a successful system. So we must acknowledge that they did all right. But there is much more to be done. And I think, see, the Pakistanis threw 400 drones against us one night. We need to manufacture drones in hundreds and thousands. Yeah, it's not a great shakes of an equipment. Plastic
So,
only.
do you think that is an area we are lacking in?
So we have so many of our stand up, firms which can produce this. And in India, we need to get our procedures and systems right so that we can manufacture at scale. Whether we do in a joint venture between public and private sector, or place the orders to private sector itself to produce the items and move on with it. See, we should not be procedural bound. We should be outcome bound. When you say that there is a drone, in 6 weeks to 2 months, a drone changes its technology in Ukraine. The speed of the change, so there are scientists and all who are sitting in Ukraine on the border itself, guiding them, do this, do that, change over. Okay, we will change your drone like this. So the technology is changing. We used a whole lot of loitering ammunition. In last 5 years, we had catered for a lot of loitering ammunition, Harpy, Harop, which is a drone which loiters till he finds a target and he hits it. So we had loitering ammunition, we used it. But we need to make drones on scale. Scale means hundreds and thousands. Flood the market. And then, we should be willing to accept that there is a wastage because the technology is moved ahead. Or we should have a system to accept the technology will move ahead. But technology is changing so fast in these lines.
So, when you're talking about, which arm of the military undertook the maximum hits in terms, I would say the attack when it came to Pakistan, Army, Air Force, and why is it that the Navy did not get involved?
I don't know whether one should read the Operation Sindoor into disaggregating between Army, Navy, and Air Force. I don't think we should do it.
So, was this jointness?
So I would say so. They established a joint operations room. We haven't had a joint operations room. We had very limited jointness in times to come. There was no jointness in Kargil war, limited jointness in Kargil war. There were nothing much happened in Prakaram, and subsequently each service was targeting on their own. Here there was one plan, so they moved to a plan, and then they disaggregated the targets depending on the capabilities of a force. For example, the targets, it was closer to the line of control from Muzaffarabad to Sialkot, which is 6-7 targets. I'm sure the army took it on with precision artillery, which we have, and loitering ammunition, which we had. So, we will be able to take on those targets. Muridke and Bahawalpur would be out of range for the army because they're too far away. So, the Air Force will take on. So, I think there was a dynamic targeting system devised into which it was decided, okay, the Air Force will take so and so, the army will take so and so, and divide it away. So I think, and there are larger number of missiles which are fired, which are air to ground missiles, scalp, as we were speaking of scalp or hammer, they were fired by the aircraft. Naturally, an air to ground missile is very difficult to be thwarted. You can't challenge it. It comes so fast that it hits the target. A ground to ground missile, the enemy can look for a way out. And then there were BrahMos missiles. So BrahMos missiles would have been fired from ground and from air. So if they're fired from ground, they could be army, they could also be Air Force. And the air to ground missile BrahMos would be from the Air Force. So, who fired which one, I don't think it need to be disaggregated. While they were compiling the plans, they would have said, okay, target A, we will take it on because we are close by and we will be in range, we will handle it. Target B, we can't take it on, you take it on. Or they would mutual decision, or finding the quality of target. So the quality of target was such that probably it required the Air Force only to hit, because they have huge caliber weaponry. And a target of the kind, for example, in Kotli we hit other side of Rajouri, where there was a terror camp. That would require precision artillery, which we were used to target it. So I think the jointness came on. One of the lessons that we learned from this one is that there is jointness, and there is jointness possible in planning. This is credit to the establishment of the DMA and the CDS establishment, where now CDS heads the whole thing, and he gets the three
Chief of Defense Staff for our viewers.
So he gets those three chiefs together, and they will handle it. Now, you asked a question about Navy. So firstly, the naval people keep saying they are silent service, but we should not drag this issue. Navy's contribution is immeasurable. They were there, including the aircraft carriers and the ships, not in the venture of a blockade, but not very far away from the ports. So they were within reach of Karachi. And if there was, it would have escalated, they could have taken Karachi out. So they were there. They are threatened being, a strong threatened being. The Pakistan Navy is nothing to write home about. So if the Navy had participated, firstly, it would have escalated the conflict, because there would be neutral ships also there. Ships, merchant ships, oil tankers, all passing through that area. That apart, they would have warned them off. The Navy would have got involved and be prepared to get involved at any one time. It may have escalated, but they would have been a game changer. And Navy's presence there itself would have been a great deterrent for the Pakistanis to seek, saying, okay, let's have a ceasefire. Because with the aircraft carrier and got so many aircraft on board, they could have sorted the coast out.
Was it because that we did not want to escalate in this particular confrontation into a major war? Was this also one of the reasons that it is being said that we lost a few aircraft on the first night, because their target was not the Pakistanis but the terrorists?
So firstly, a loss of aircraft has not been acknowledged by the Air Force as yet, except the DG Air Ops had said that all our pilots are safe. So we deem it. Even if the aircraft were lost, losses are part and parcel of military life. We have accepted. It would happen. It would also happen that the Pakis would unveil some system which they have got from the Chinese, which was not known to us. All is possible. Or there was a duel in which there was some
What's
kind
called a dogfight.
No, there was no dogfight. See, this is a non-contact warfare.
Okay.
It's a non-contact warfare with both forces were 300 kilometers apart. So that there
was no dogfight then.
No, it's not that kind.
Did we cross the LOC at all? International border LOC?
Not physically.
Okay.
Weapon systems crossed.
Weapon systems, yes, but not our aircraft.
Yeah, and which is also one of the issues of war fighting, which we learning.
But did they cross?
No, they won't cross.
Mm-hmm.
They won't cross. Neither the aircraft nor the men. Nobody crossed. See, the point is, this is a trend that shows the battlefield transparency is so total that now for armies to move ahead is an issue which is be transparent. We have to now start contemplating how to fight wars in a transparent environment where the satellite is reading every tank, every man, everything possible. And it is fusing it across with the sensors, all sensors together, and convert and passing automatic messages for the right shooter to employ itself. So the whole war systemic is changing, very fast changing. So naturally,
So that's why you use the term non-contact warfare.
So it's a non-contact but kinetic.
Yes.
Yeah, kinetic, all right, non-contact. This may be a trend for the future. This may be giving us some answers how to organize a force, how to structure a force in times to come.
Right. Now, so when we are talking about it, why do you think, Mr. Trump has been saying so many things. We have to talk about the Americans. I'll come a little later we have to speak about a bit of geopolitics. Why do you think these people, the Pakistanis, approached the US?
So you see, you can conjecture any things. When you analyze that issue, what would have happened? I would say the presence of Navy would have made a difference. Their survivability is on everything they get from outside the country is nothing at all. One, but second is that Kirana Hills, which you referred to, got hit, and they would have cried hoarse that there is a nuclear radiation leak or something would have happened or something like that, which is a nuclear issue. And I think more importantly, all the BrahMos found their target. And targets were all across the Pakistani front from Skardu to Rahim Yar Khan. And they hit focused, including targeting GHQ, their headquarters. First day, they targeted GHQ, but the missile went and hit a cricket stadium where cricket match was going to start in Rawalpindi.
Yeah.
And then,
PSL, huh?
yeah. And then Islamabad. So, and each one found their target, and all they were cruise missiles, and they had no answer to this. So, when you add on to it, the next lot of salvo, which is another about 10-15 missiles, would have taken more things out from contention of war fighting with Pakistan. And this was not being hit as in kind of collateral damage where civilians were being killed. So everything was being focused. So there was a war on, but war was precise, accurate, and clear of what we wanted. So, I would say that we did fantastic job in this one.
So the ceasefire that came about, there were some voices that kept saying that, our expectations were raised too high and that was not fulfilled. Would you say ceasefire at that moment was the right decision?
So I'll say, you look, we could have another 2 nights, say another 4 nights. We would have hit another 20-30 targets like we hit it. We may have caused a little more destruction here. We would have also been in the receiving hand. The Pakistanis may elevate themselves to a ballistic missile or something. Who knows? The question of escalation control. One of the biggest things that we learned in this war is that we applied the mechanisms of superlative escalation control. And we graduated upstairs the escalation ladder. From day one, when we struck Pakistan, we would have told them, look, we have struck you only on terror targets. If you want to escalate, we will escalate you. And we kept saying, look, what we have done is precise and non-escalatory in nature. From day one, we have been saying, okay, we are saying, look, no, we don't want escalation. No all-out conventional war. We were aggrieved party. We responded to your hitting Pahalgam, and we would hit the terrorist target. Now you want to escalate it, is on you. We are ready for it. But what we are doing is non-escalatory in nature. So, as a logic, it was categoric that we didn't want to escalate. So, a loose rope was being given to Pakistan all the time. You catch a rope and say, okay, don't want to escalate it. They had an issue of ultra-nationalism in the country. And the whole war was just to bring the army back into command, because army was on the receiving end in Pakistan, in Pakistan's polity, and the nation was being fractured because of the internal turmoil. So they created a story that we are the victors. And I saw a news channel today, interview of Mujahid Hussain, who was a minister there, and he was saying, oh, maar diya, thok diya, all those things that he said, which actually is taking the public for a ride. Now the international media, say after 2 days, all international media is veered around to say, yes, India is a clear victor. Because they understood it, that why they backtracked on this one. And when they came and said, okay, we want ceasefire, we were honorable about it. We said, okay, enough. You want ceasefire, fine. And we didn't say ceasefire. We said, okay, we come to understanding that we will not open fire. But the Prime Minister is clear, candid. It's a pause. Means we are still ready to break the pause.
So, which obviously brings us to, if it, neutralizing the terrorists was our prime objective. Have we been able to do that? Have we been able to kind of let the Pakistanis know? Have we been able to tell the Pakistanis that any such, we have of course said it will be considered an act of war. Is it going to act as a deterrent?
So that's a very good question and a very difficult question to answer. Because creating strategic deterrence, and a lot of people right now that the word deterrence is dead. Now, have we been able to create a deterrent, a strategic deterrent? One hopes so. We hope so that they have been hit so hard, and that they will know that we have the capability to do so. But Pakistan is a different nation altogether. They believe in anti-Indianism to bind their country. It's their glue. Otherwise, they have four countries. Pakistan is four countries. If you don't, each one as desperate as any other country. Each one having its own problems.
Yeah, Sindh, Pakistan, I mean, Sindh, Punjab, Balochistan, and
Balochistan, Khyber
Northwest.
Pakhtunkhwa, and Sindh, and Gilgit-Baltistan separately. So they have to bind their country, and then of course Pakistan army has to retain at the helm of affairs. If they lose the anti-Indianism, who will look for Pakistan army as a savior? The Pakistan army's pecuniary interest, all the businesses that they have running, they're making money, all that will go for a six. So today, tomorrow, maybe it's a deterrent. I don't know what day after tomorrow. In fact, I would say that day after tomorrow, day after tomorrow, I mean maybe 2 years, maybe 5 years, they will be prepared to for what they think that they would have had losses this time, and they will be better closiveness with China. They will be back at it.
So we have to think ahead, because they are definite. They know their lacunae by now. So but they know their problems. They will try to obviously cover this up and kind of progress. So are we thinking ahead already?
So we need to, like I said, we need to do something about space. We need low Earth orbit satellites, whole lot of them, to get battlefield transparency.
How much have we progressed in that area?
So we have progressed, but we are slow, and we require better resolution systems. We can't be dependent on better resolution on worldwide private firms, because you don't know what they mean and who are they passing information to. So we need to do this. We need to get drones made in scale. Scale means hundreds and thousands. Flood them. The forces of all types, various variety of drones are available. So that will overwhelm their defenses. So we need to work at that end. So there is, and I'm sure we are thinking about creating a digital network setups, which the Chinese have provided to the Pakistanis or those kind. We must be having it, and maybe we must be thinking of improving it. One very important fact that comes out here is that there was a civil-military synergy. There are people who've been writing books on absent dialogue. There's a book called Absent Dialogue recently, which says that there's absent dialogue between military and civil. But I think the civil and the military enmeshed fantastically in this time. It is the change which is evident. And I hope and I pray that this continues in peacetime also hereafter. Because the civil and military synergy is so very important to take decisions for future. And that becomes a stepping stone towards. And of course, we need to start examining as to what is the requirement of defense budget, because we require to work on a defense budget. We require to modernize, but to modernize, see, there are contradictory requirements of socio-economic development of the country and Viksit Bharat and all that. So we need to balance it out, and we need to start thinking of modernizing for future wars. One issue is non-contact kinetic war, and get more modernity into it. So they require more defense budget, which means you have to cut corners somewhere else. So all this is must be future thinking.
Yeah, because the nature of the beast is such that it does not change its spots. Definitely not Pakistan
Absolutely
or China.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, actually my last question on this matter is that, you see, when you're talking about modernization of of weapon system, increasing defense budget and all, one aspect we have been buying a lot from the US in particular. Now, it seems Mr. Trump is making certain very strange noises in terms of India, Pakistan. He's equating them and he's threatening them by saying, things like, I'm not going to sell you, I'm not going to, there is not going to be any trade if there is no peace and all. So it just might happen that tomorrow he may turn around and say that, if you are not de-escalating, or if tension goes out of hand, I'm not going to give you weapons, I'm going to withhold weapons from you. So how do we handle this US factor and the unpredictability that Mr. Trump is bringing into India US relations, especially in the defense domain, given that India's defense and security relationship with the US in particular has been burgeoning over the last few years?
Ajit, I have not an easy answer to give. See, if you see any one of these statements, he made 4 or 5 statements recently also, Mr. Trump. But he is known to give such statements for a very long time, decades altogether. He speaks like this.
Too much loose talk.
So when you say India and Pakistan are fighting for 1,500 years, which 1,500 years have we been fighting? I mean, we got independent in 47. Pakistan didn't exist as an entity. India can claim 5,000 years of history. Pakistan can't have anything beyond 47. And, so many of these are hyperbole, they are exaggerations of various kind. What happened tomorrow, we will see when tomorrow comes. Today, I personally, my personal opinion, of course, that we don't have to react to everything that Mr. Trump says and then, fall into this trap. Maybe he's putting a trap on us. If we say, what he's saying is wrong, trade was not discussed, every day something comes up, but he's going to be for 3.5 years more. In the next 3.5 years old, if he makes 2 statements about India, there will be hundreds of statements being made about India, which we will not like. And hyphenating, non-hyphenating, all these issues. I think we are a matured country. We are a cultural country. We have 5,000 years to bank on. I don't think we need to get overexcited about statements being made by Mr. Trump, which we don't like, which indeed we don't like. You should know that there is no multilateralism on sorting out J&K. There is bilateral thing. State Department has come out later and said, okay, it's only bilateral, I accept it. But Mr. Trump said, no, I will mediate between 2 of them. But there is no mediation. It is, and non-mediation is part of Shimla Agreement also. So the fact is that I think, let's pass it on. Okay, he can speak, smile it away. If we start rebutting everything, then there will be full-time job on rebuttals to what he keeps saying. And then there's someday he will get riled on this one. And to answer your other question is about equipment. I think President Trump is transactional in nature and his government is transactional in nature. Large amount of economic trade is on which foundation he rests. So when you say, I want to buy another 10 C-17s, so, it will support their country in employment, in generation of funds, money, and we are buyers. So, to say, if he doesn't give it, buy Airbus, or we go to Europe and buy. See, Europe is also producing things, but somebody else will balance it out. So, the point is that I think in sale of equipment, there could be some clauses that we may not like into what we do trade with him, and user clauses or something like that, where he makes it tough for us to use it. But I think in the overall run, he being transactional and shopping minded, if I say so, he won't make trouble for us.
So to conclude, your thoughts on Operation Sindoor as a whole, what exactly it means for India?
So I think we exhibited many things. We exhibited maturity of a different level. We did escalation, we did targeting, we did escalation control. We showed civil military liaison of a great kind. We did not go around mass targeting like what is done by Israel and what was done between Russia and Ukraine. We were very focused. We didn't want to hit the public. We didn't hit the public. There could have been occasions we did so. And we showed that we have the capacity to produce modern weaponry in India. Great thing. I hope this trend of civil military synergy continues and we are able to bring the armed forces, because as I have been saying always, Viksit Bharat and Surakshit Bharat are wheels of the same chariot.
Thank you, Lieutenant Sharma, for such a brilliant explanation for whatever has happened.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you, viewers, for watching. Until the next time.